Okay, so we're back for the last installment on this whole listening prayer thing. But we had just two more things to say, and then we're done. I wanted to kick it off by talking about the whole thing of the motivation of what you're going in for. I think one of the first things that really brings value to it is being able to hear for yourself. And the motivation not going in to hear for others, although that will flow out of it. But, you know, it's the same way I was telling Lindsay, it's the same way I've trained prophetic people over the years. So many times when people would come to my schools, they're all about coming in to give a word, and I'll rein them back, and I would shut that down, and then and teach them how to hear for themselves. Because I said to Lindsay, if somebody's going to come give me a word, I want to know that they can hear for themselves as well. And a lot of times people can hear easily for others, but they don't seem to be able to hear for themselves. So in listening prayer, it's a place of intimacy. Once again, it's my motivation in prayer. But out of that comes, I think, the ability to hear for others. Mm-hmm. And I encourage that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I wanted to get that in, it's for going in to love Him. Mm-hmm. It's not crude. It's normal. A husband and wife, when they go in for intimacy into the bedroom and they shut the door, they don't go in, hopefully, to talk about other people. They go in to focus on one another. And so to me, it's the same principle when we go in to meet with Jesus. Now, out of that will flow your ability to hear for others. And, He'll speak to you about others. And Lindsay's going to talk about our nation. But, go in with the intent of building your relationship with Him, and strengthening the foundations of your intimacy with Him. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and just I was thinking while she's talking about this, Michael and I, we will
come over here this way just a little bit.
We'll talk about our kids because we love our kids.
Yes.
So it's like the same thing with Jesus, and you go in and you're talking to Him and you're communing with Him, loving on Him, and He's loving on you. And naturally, He's going to start talking to you about His kids.
But not during
union.
The union,
yeah. But it's like, it
comes out of that.
It comes out of that love. Right, exactly.
No, but seriously, we're laughing, but it's true.
It's true.
And then you talk about your life and your children, mm-hmm. and the things, because you've bonded.
Right.
You've bonded. Mm-hmm. You become one.
Yeah.
And then the whole atmosphere shifts, and you're able to talk about the life and the world around you, and the things that matter to you,
right.
The two of you, right?
Right.
There
exactly.
you go. I love that.
So I wanted to talk about hearing, a part of hearing prayer, listening prayer, that has to do with hearing for our nation and the assignment we have in prayer. I feel like the Lord, like this season is intense.
Can I ask you to do something?
Yes,
even before
go
you go into that? You have a little backdrop. I'm going to move this light. It's just a little too bright. Lindsay, would you tell just a short, because a lot of people will be watching this mm-hmm.
that
are friends of mine from the Den that mm-hmm. follow Kim's ministry. And I know your testimony about mm-hmm. how God did something in you for our nation. Would you just share that quickly? Because I know it will resonate with the people who love Kim.
Yes, of course, yeah. It was, I think it was 2015, and I had known about Kim for a long time. I've gone to several of his meetings, and since I was a teenager, but just since 2015, my husband started listening to him a lot more, and it kind of reminded me that I needed to, tune into what he was saying. So we started doing that together, and there was a specific word that he gave. It was about America, and it was him just speaking from the heart of God, saying, "My darling America," and that's how the Lord talked to America, "My darling America," and and that just resonated in my heart so much. It just gave me this whole new perspective of how I look at our nation and the
especially
love
for your generation,
for my generation, the love that we need to carry for our nation and the purpose and callings that God has put in the nation. So, and
out of that is from a really heart for intercession.
Yes, yeah.
So go ahead.
Okay, so So just going into the place of prayer and saying, Lord, teach me how to pray for our nation, or teach me how to pray in this moment. And then he begins to like show you some things. I like to take the Psalms out because I feel like there's a lot going on in the Psalms that are like, you know, my enemies are rising up against me,
Yes.
and the Lord shows himself strong. So
the evil ones, and where it talks about all that.
Yeah. So, but I do feel like there's an assignment on our generation, an assignment to pray. Our job is to pray for those that are in authority, those that are in leadership, despite what we think about them, or what we think about what they believe, or what their agenda is, or whatever it is. It's like you got to bypass all of that kind of stuff and say, Lord, what are you saying about them now? And what are you saying about our nation now? How do I pray? Teach me to pray in this time for what's going on right now.
I wish I would have been thinking ahead. If I can go back and edit it, I will to do it. But I can tell you about it. Danae Clement, Kim's daughter, Pajuska, she just released a video on her YouTube that of a prophecy Kim did 12 years ago.
Oh, wow.
That is like, in it, he is literally describing now.
Wow.
And part of it is, and this caught my attention when I knew we were going to do this, and I meant to try to get it together, but nevertheless, you can go on Danae's YouTube or on the Facebook page, or, you know, and you'll find it. And Kim starts going into talking about how the two generations, your generation and mine, and how you will be the warriors. It will come to a place where you will be the warriors, and we will be lifting our hands, you know, to see you succeed and to empower you through prayer, and how important prayer is going to be to release you and to help you accomplish the destiny that you've been marked for, you know, as warriors to fight through and break through for this nation.
Yeah.
And it went off in me, you know, like, oh my gosh, that's what Lindsey and I were actually talking about. And you know, your generation has been what's the word I'm looking for? Disappointed or disillusioned.
Disillusioned. Yeah.
Over church and over leadership and over different things, and become very lax, very indifferent. And God's beginning to shake, you know, your generation. And, you know, Kim was saying, if I remember correctly, he was saying something to the point of the warriors, that's a difficult place, but keeping your hands up. And we need both.
Yes.
You know, that as long as Moses' hands were raised, the Joshua's prevailed. And so I believe even what we're doing right now, Lindsey, that's what was so cool. Maybe I can attach it on the end of this one. I'll try. I'm not that, I might be a little techie, but that might, I'll do my best. But I really believe that, you know, without us even planning it, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're bringing two generations together through these last few videos, and we're talking about prayer at different stages of life, but it's the same kind of prayer and the different roles that it plays and how to move in it. And I believe your generation is stepping up in a way that this earth has never seen, and that we're not doing away with one for the other.
Yeah.
And I believe in making place for your generation, but I also believe that in your generation, and I know I love, and Danae will probably be watching these. Danae, I love how she's told me several times, she goes, Dina, the Lord was speaking to me after her grandmother passed away, Gloria, who I loved that woman. She was Kim's personal intercessor. I've never met anyone like her. She saw more revivals and prayed more revivals into South Africa and around the world. And I just loved Gloria. She was walking history book of you know, church and the works and acts of God. But Danae said the Lord spoke to her and said, she goes, and I'll never forget it. She goes, I'm holding to it. I want you to seek out the counsel of the older ones. And get up close to them and let them pour into you and seek them out. And she's been really wise to do that. And you know, I'm always so thankful when I have a relationship with younger people, you know, from your age bracket, you know, that you actually want to hang out with me. Thank you so much. No, but seriously, you know, because I feel we need each other, and that I'm by no means done.
Oh
You know, and I'll, you know, I remember one time somebody said to me, well, yes, you know, we're kind of almost the same age, and they were like, I know I need to just go ahead now and begin to pull back and let the younger generation step in. I'm like, do you really believe that? I mean, I don't believe God's wringing his hands going, I just don't have enough frontline positions for everybody. I need somebody to step back. He's going, I need more help.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so I don't believe it's a matter of having to give up one for the other. But there's a place for all of us, and Joel, where it talks about marching in our own ranks. I know I'm getting maybe off subject, but it fires me up because I don't think we're seeing it modeled, but not quite as much as I think we should be.
Yeah.
And we're going to be.
We're going to be. That's the thing. We are going to be seeing that more
so,
and more.
You know, you don't just need to hear from someone. You need to hear Lindsey's. You know, those that are in the same stage of life that Lindsey's in. I remember in fact, when I went to South Africa, I was 26.
Wow.
And I remember, I was thinking, oh, dear Lord, I can't wait till I turn 30. Then people will take me serious.
No.
You know what I'm saying? But that's how you thought back then, because it's like, oh, you know, it was the Jeremiah, don't look at their faces, Dina.
Yeah,
you know, I've called you, and I remember traveling with Kim and those times back then, and you know, and I remember the people that belittled in ministry, that acted like they wanted to, and the mentoring wasn't even a word. I don't even know why I'm going into this. Maybe somebody needs it. But I remember them saying, you know, yes, come in, but there was never giving away any secrets. They didn't really, they didn't give you too much because they didn't want you to take their place.
Yeah, the vulnerability.
There was a fear. And I've always believed the more you give away, the more room it will make for you.
That's good.
And so I've always given Dina the little ministry tips, you know, and hints of things I've learned over the years to empower others to do what I wish somebody would have taught me. You know?
Yeah.
So I think in prayer, that's a powerful way and place where it can be done, you know, where we can model for one another's, you know, and that we need the younger ones. And I believe that the younger generation needs us still, you know, and that is, it's us or them. It's both.
Yeah.
It's both.
Yeah.
Our nation needs that. Now talk about our nation more.
Oh,
that's a long subject. Did you hear that deep breath she just took?
Well,
yeah.
No, I totally agree with all of that, and I think that it is. We're going to be seeing that the father hearts and the son, you know, the sons and the fathers being turned towards each other in love and respect and understanding that we need each other.
Yes.
You know, that, yeah. So that's good. But
so just go through, I know you said you read the Psalms a lot. Listen, I'm going to say this, and this might trigger some things in you.
Yeah.
I've been around, I've lived many years, and I'm seeing things I've never seen. Our nation is going through something. We've gone through rough times, the 60s and Vietnam and other things like that. We've gone through some, and you know, Watergate. We've gone through some difficult times that you weren't even alive, you know. But where we are right now, there are things at play that have been, I think, chained up and have been unchained for such a time as this, that are not of God. And we're having to fight for righteousness, and for truth, and contend for it. For the first time on a newscast last night, I heard the announcer say, "I'm just telling you, if we do not start fighting back, we're going to lose everything." Yeah.
Okay. So can I just
go?
There's a book that I want to talk about.
Okay.
Okay. It's called "If You Can Keep It." Have you read that?
No.
Have you? Okay. If You Can Keep It, and it's Eric Metaxas. But Michael and I just started reading it, and it is like, it's called "If You Can Keep It" because Benjamin Franklin, there was an interaction he had with a lady when the Constitution was being written, and she said, "Is this?" Basically, he was saying, "This is a republic if you can keep it. If you can hold true to the values that are in the conception of this nation." Yes. And so everybody needs to go read that book.
You have me already. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's really, and I read that book, and that stirs up intercession in me for our nation.
That.
because it's just the foundational things. Because there were people that they didn't have it all right. They did wrong things.
Right.
But we can't say it's all been bad, because there was some bad, and because there was things that came out of it, like slavery and racism and all of those things. They came out of it. They're part of the history, but you can't get rid of your history because there was some bad things in it. And so
because those bad things are supposed to teach us and remind us how to be better.
That's right. That's right.
You get rid of that, you get rid of that reminder, of how far we've come, or the places we can go.
Yeah, people grow and they change.
I love that concept, if you can keep it, and just that history is so important. We have a generation that are not taught history in schools.
That's right.
And that history brings identity, and identity brings confidence to know that your purpose, in Acts 17, Paul said, I'm going to tell you that you see all these unknown gods. I'm going to tell you about the God, all these gods that are carved, but I'm going to tell you about the unknown God. He's the one that you can have a real relationship with, because he's not stone, he's not carved, he's not, any of that. And he said, he's a God that puts you in a particular family, in a particular country, a region, at a particular time, so that you could seek him and feel after him, and then find him. Because when we find God, we will make him known to others. And I believe that we all were born to this time for such a time as this. And I believe that there's a high calling. And one of the things I told Lindsey, I said, I want to do this also because things are heating up, people. And how I started saying this a minute ago is we're contending with things we've never contended with before. And it will wear people down. The world around us, the infighting, the media, the noise, the social media, it begins to dumb us down, and where we begin to move the boundaries of our lives. And when we begin to move the boundaries of our lives, of what we know is important, we lose our perspective of who he is and who we are in him. And right now, more than ever, it says, if it were possible, even in the last days, even the very elect would be deceived, if it were possible. But if we are people that abide in his word, and his word abides in us, and I mean that word abide, then we can ask what we will, and it will be done, and that we'll end well. My sisters and I talk all the time. I have 3 amazing sisters who are used powerfully by God as well, and in their own right. And yesterday, Amy and I were talking about, the scripture says, Dean, I've heard you say it before, it's in Luke, it says, take heed to yourself. Once again, going back to yourself, lest your heart, in the last days, is in Luke in 21, and it's talking about before Jesus returns, it says we're to take heed to ourselves, lest our hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and the cares of this world, and then that day come upon you unaware. And just a few weeks ago, I had been contending in some places and just feeling kind of worn down, and all of a sudden the reality of how subtle it is. How subtle. Even somebody that loves Jesus and really, full, serves him pretty full out, but that how all of us are susceptible if we do not keep the first things first and value our intimacy, value hearing from God, value listening to prayer, value praying, value the word, value the things that should be first place, and willing, and I'm having to move some things around in my life, because I'm realizing, it takes away instead of adds to. And we all need to be able to say that. Come on, you guys. You'd rather me be real with you than some fake person sitting up here just no, we all need to take inventory. Take inventory of your lives. The days are shifting and changing. The ground under us is shifting constantly. We have got to be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. That we have the full armor of God on, and that we are ready to face a given day for whatever that day might bring. I've been writing a lot about change, and one thing I said, one thing we can count on, and we can always count on change. Nothing ever stays the same. And to be a people who are able to stay solid and stay steady in our relationship with God while everything around us is changing, while the torrents of the waterfalls are roaring, we can still hear him. Now is the time to practice this. Now. We should already be doing it. But if you haven't, Now is the time. Get up and get moving into it.
Yeah.
Not out of fear, but out of your love for God. You know, one of the things my sister and I were talking about last night, she said, Dina, the thing that keeps ringing in my heart is that scripture, when I come back, will I find faith?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. and we have to ask ourselves, forget about the person next to you. Ask yourself, is this the way you want to look? Is this what you want to be doing? And God looks at the heart. You know, we all have struggles, but it's the heart. It's always been the heart. Ever since we turned the page into the New Testament, went through the cross. Mm-hmm. Before it was the law and it was all outward display. But when we went through the cross, it became the heart. God looks at the heart. Right now, he's gathering hearts.
That's right. He's
gathering hearts. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, you know, this is not some fine line. It is a big, thick line. You're either on this side or that side. And I just, for me, it's like, God, I've always had in my heart's mind how, if Jesus comes back in my lifetime, how I want to be functioning when the sound of that trump comes and I'm caught up.
Yeah.
And, you know, if there is anything that is breaking down your heart and causing you to stagnate in the things of God, deal with it. And it's not difficult. It's just a matter of turning in. So much of us are so afraid of change and so afraid of, mm-hmm. you know, the transitions of life. But turn into it, and because that means the quicker you get through it and you figure out what God's wanting to do in you. I'm gone to prophesying and preaching, but I'm telling you,
it's true.
This last half of this year, things are going to. We think this is intensified. It's getting ready to increase some more. Yeah. And I'm not preaching doom and gloom. That's not what I'm saying here. That's what I'm saying. It can be. Kim prophesied on that prophecy I told you about, how there had been 4 years of grace and abundance, and there was getting ready to come even an exponential amount of more. Mm-hmm. I believe that, but I also believe with it is coming an intense warfare that such as the likes. Listen, it says that in the last days there will be demonic spirits, and I'm using the word last days. I make no apologies for that. I just so many people pull back when you, Dina, we've been in the last days for yeah, we have, but we're in the last of the last days.
We are.
We are. If you don't agree with me, that's okay, but don't write anything about it. Just turn off and go somewhere else. But I'm serious. We are in the last of the last days. And I'd rather say this and sound the trumpet and warn people mm-hmm. than for you to be on me, you know, that I didn't say something when I could have. I'm telling you, the intensifying of the times we're moving into, we will move with strength. We will move with power. We will move with authority. Mm-hmm. But we will move in those things when we're moving in Him. Mm-hmm. And that requires us to do the works that Christ told us to do, the things to practice, the things to in Him I live and move and have my being, and to stay in that place. That requires an open Bible, an open heart, a pure heart. Mm-hmm. I'm going to hand it over to you because I'm passionate about that. Mm. That day can come on you unawares, like a thief in the night. We want to be a people who know the times and the seasons that we're living in.
That's right. We
want to know the times. We forget about the date. We want to know the times and the seasons. Mm-hmm. And we are in a season where we need to be grounded and locked in and loaded to God like never before. Yeah. And
Yeah, know the times and the seasons that you're in. There's a reason why He compares that to a mother that's expecting her baby.
Yes.
Because you don't know the date. You have an idea. But He does say that you know the time and the season.
Yes.
And I believe that I'm not just walking around unaware. I'm aware this is the time and the season. This is the time and the season. So we need to get ready for that because...
give everything you've got to keeping yourself in the love of God. Keep yourself in Him. Mm-hmm. In Him. He's the number one. He's the most important thing. And there's no way to build intimacy without communion. Mm-hmm. You know. And so that's what we've been talking about. And that will overflow, as Lindsey was saying. I want to make sure you've said everything that's in your heart, because I got fired up there. But I want you to make sure you say all that you were wanting to say about our nation, because listen, there's been a real strong spirit of intercession on Lindsey for our nation, on all of us. We've all should be praying for our nation, you know, and not just prayer, not just he was rebuilding that wall. He made sure he put a tool in one hand and a sword in the other. And so we're to pray and to work like there's no tomorrow, but build for the next generation as if there will be and we won't be here, you know. So when you look at it like that, it's a win-win. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Pray.
Yeah. So just real quick about just a couple more things about our nation is that I do feel like we don't need to forget that it is a city on a hill.
Yes.
It's a city on a hill. There's never been anything like America, and the Lord did that on purpose. And if you think that there has been, you need to go back to the beginning.
Listen to her.
Because there is it was something set apart for a purpose, and just
and it's an experiment to this
it was
day.
An experiment,
and it still is.
Yes, it still is.
Democracy has been an experiment.
It was set there for other nations to look upon and say, there's more, there's something better, there's something that can help the rest of the world. And that's not like some kind of like puffed up idea of our nation, but that's purpose and that's destiny that God's called.
We've been asked to deny who we are.
Yeah.
For many years.
Yeah.
And it's dumbed down our nation.
Yeah.
And if you lose your identity, you lose everything. You know, and because of broken homes and this and that, it has been detrimental to the identity of our nation. But you know, I look at some of the movies they come out with of history that generations have forgotten, that were not taught in school, and I'm so happy they're doing it, because younger generations need to know the sacrifices that were paid. My father just passed away this year, and I'm just telling you, I used to get my dad to tell stories. If your parents still get them to tell the stories, get your grandparents to tell the stories and the greatest generation that ever lived was the World War II generation. They understood, you know, what it was to sacrifice, what it was to patriotism and to give of yourself and loyalty and nation and God and you know, maybe I sound old-fashioned, but there's a power in that.
Yeah, there's a reason. My dad is 70 years old, and he was in the Navy back when he was younger, and there's a reason why when he talks about that time, that not just being in the Navy, but that time in America, when he talks about it, he'll start to cry. Yeah. There's a reason why that happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because he was a few years older than me, but still it was that, it was Vietnam generation, and I always hung around people older than me when I was younger. Now it's not so much anymore. It's kind of flipped over the years. But I remember all my friends that had gone to Vietnam, you know, and many of them came back and committed suicide. You know, it was a turbulent time, but there was a price paid, you know. And I find our history, I love American history, and I love our nation. And, you know, it doesn't have to be an hour of prayer. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes. It doesn't even have to be 15 minutes. It just is a matter of when you think about it, when you think about our president.
That's right.
You lift him up.
Yeah.
I was watching the other day, I forget what led me there, but somehow Rodney Howard-Browne and his church, and he just had met with the president and prayed for him, and he was talking very openly about it. So it's not something I'm repeating that should be, but he put up the video of him speaking in his church the first Sunday back, and he told about how he went to Congress and he met with a congressman or a senator, and how they said there is a plot to take the president down. And he said, I'm not kidding, people. He goes, we have got to pray. Now, I know Kim has given many prophecies giving us insight and hope that, you know, President Trump will be kept and he won't be impeached and these things won't happen. But it doesn't mean we need to stop praying. The reason it won't happen is because we're going to be praying.
That's right. That's right. Because we hear those words. We have those words and we listen to them often, those words from Kim about the president, and that we know it's this time he was talking about. And we listen to those and we know that's good news, and we totally believe that that's what the Lord is doing, but we know that that does not take off the responsibility for us to pray. We have to pray. So it is your responsibility. It's our responsibility to lift up everybody in authority, our president, the people that are whispering in his ears, the people that he's meeting with, and that are influencing the direction.
Yep. And having known Kim well, I can tell you right now, he would have said the same thing. And he believed the same thing. Prophecies can come out, but it requires, one of the first callings of an intercessor, of a prophetic person, is to embrace prayer. Because if you're not willing to pray for the prophetic words that you bring forth, then you don't need to be doing them.
Yeah.
You know, because it's both. It's the hand and the glove. Anyway, here we go again. Time just goes away. This is the longest one we've done, but I'm glad we did it. And I'm going to go ahead and let you end it and pray for our nation.
Okay. Yeah. So, Lord, we just ask, God, for your hand to be shown across this nation. Lord, that you would cause a fire to arise in your church, in this nation, Lord, to burn for righteousness and justice, and to see the purpose that you put, the seeds that you put at the very foundation of our nation, Lord, that we would burn with a passion to see those things come to the fruition, Lord, and that despite what we think about the people in authority, Lord, that we would have a heart to pray for those that are in authority, because you've told us to do it. You've told us to pray for those that are in authority so that we can have peaceful lives. And Lord, that we would desire that. And so, Father, I just ask that the disillusionment that has been over our generation, my generation, Lord, that it would be broken off right now in the name of Jesus. There would be a hunger to know the truth, not just what they've heard from influence around them, Lord, but to know the truth, to go beyond what the popular people are saying, to go beyond that, and to dive in deeper, to go back and find a history book, and to see to go and read the Constitution of the United States. Lord, I just thank you, God, that you would put a hunger that is bigger than what we could even imagine, Lord. That is more, I pray that we would tap into the heart that you have for our nation, Lord, because that's where it's at. It's that love that you call out to this nation, Lord, and you say, my darling America, turn your eyes towards me. Turn your eyes back to me, because I was the one at the conception of your nation. I was the one that was speaking identity and purpose over you.
Breathed on this nation, and we became a living being. A living nation.
Amen.
I love that, Lindsay. Yes, and amen. God bless you, and God bless America.
Yeah.
You want to turn it off?